Captain Jace Morgan was the only human in the landing squad. His boots sank slightly into the wet alien soil as he walked through the ruins of the enemy's outpost. The battle was over, at least for now. Smoke rose from broken towers, and strange alien flags hung half-burned on the walls. The place smelled like fire, oil, and something rotten deep underground. The rest of his team searched for intel and survivors. But Jace's attention was pulled somewhere else. He felt something like a whisper in his bones. His ears couldn't hear it, but his mind could. It was coming from the lower level of the building. He followed the broken hallway, past cracked doors and shattered metal. At the end was a thick steel wall, different from the others. It wasn't damaged by the battle, it was sealed. But something inside was crying, not loudly, just enough to make his skin crawl. The sound was soft, shaky, like someone trying hard not to be heard. Jace pressed his hand to the scanner beside the wall. Surprisingly, it still worked. The door hissed open, releasing a foul smell like rusted chains and damp air left untouched for years. Inside was a dark room with only one beam of light, and in that beam, chained to the floor, was a girl. No Anne, alien girl. Her skin was pale violet, her hair tangled, her thin arms covered in scars. She wore nothing but a ragged piece of cloth, barely holding together. One of her legs was twisted, as if broken long ago and never healed. Her face was strange, half beautiful. Half-warped halves of different beings were forced into one. She didn't look at him when the door opened. She just pulled her knees to her chest and shook. Quietly, Jack stepped forward, shocked. "Why is she chained like that?" he asked into his cum-link. "Silence, command," he repeated. "I've found something, someone. A young female alien badly treated. She's alive but restrained like a prisoner." "Why?" Still no answer. The silence wasn't technical, it was intentional. Jack crouched near her. ICA still didn't look at him. "It's all right," he said gently. "I won't hurt you." She trembled at his voice, as if expecting pain to follow. He reached for the chains, but they were locked with alien tech he didn't understand. He looked around for a control panel. Anything that could free her, but there was nothing in the room except dust and old bones. Someone had been here before. Many someones. This room wasn't just a prison. It was a grave. And she was the only one left breathing. "What's your name?" he asked. She finally looked at him. Her eyes were glowing faintly, blue and gold, like swirling galaxies inside. "Tur." Lips moved slightly, but no sound came out. "Who did this to you?" Her mouth opened again, barely forming the words. "Father." He froze. "Your father." She nodded slowly, then lowered her head. Before he could ask more, the floor shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. A low rumble echoed through the building. His cum-link crackled. "Captain, enemy reinforcements inbound. Get out of there now."
Ow.
Looked at the girl. Her eyes were wide with panic. She pulled at the chains, trying to move, but they didn't budge. "Command, I'm not leaving her here. She's not a threat. She's a victim." "Captain, we don't have time," Jace pulled a plasma cutter from his pack. He wasn't going to leave her, no matter what they said. He fired up the cutter and began slicing through the alien metal. Sparks flew. The girl winced but didn't scream. The chain broke after a few minutes. Then another. Finally, her arms were free. She reached toward him hesitantly, like she couldn't believe it. "You can walk?" he asked. She shook her head. Her leg dragged behind her. She had no strength. Jace lifted her into his arms. She weighed almost nothing. Just bones and pain. More footsteps echoed down the hallway. Aliens, but not soldiers. Drones, tall, white armored machines with no faces. They saw Jace holding the girl and stopped. One of them lowered its weapon. Then, as if receiving silent orders, they turned away and walked back into the smoke. Jace looked down at her. "Why didn't they shoot?" She looked at him with those strange glowing eyes and whispered, "Because I'm not worth killing." Jace didn't know what scared him more, that she believed it, or that they agreed. He held her tighter and walked. Back into the light. Whatever this girl was, Whoever she was, he would find out, and he would protect her, even if the entire galaxy told him not to. The medical tent buzzed with quiet activity. Jace sat beside the alien girl, her frail body wrapped in a thermal blanket, her twisted legs supported by soft pads. She hadn't spoken again since he carried her out of the ruins. She just stared. At him, not with fear, but with confusion. As if trying to understand why someone would help her. She flinched every time someone walked near. Whenever a soldier raised his voice outside, she would tense up and pull the blanket tighter. She didn't trust anyone, not even herself. But she never pulled away from Jace. Outside the tent, a strange sound echoed through the base. Not an alarm. Not engines. A deep, ancient horn. Something was coming. The guards at the gates shouted commands. Weapons were drawn, mechs powered up, and drones hovered into formation. The horn grew louder, closer, until it stopped just outside the perimeter. Jace stepped out of the tent, his rifle ready, eyes sharp. Then he saw it. A long black transport. Hovered above the ground, surrounded by armored alien beasts, half machine, half living. At the center, standing tall in ceremonial armor, was a massive figure, the alien warlord. His armor glowed with royal markings. His eyes burned like suns. His skin was carved with tribal symbols of blood and victory. He looked like a king made of stone and war. He stepped forward, slowly unarmed. The soldiers around Jace raised their weapons, but the warlord lifted a single hand and everyone froze. "I have not come for war," the warlord said in a cold, sharp voice. "I have come for her." Jace didn't move. "She is under my protection now," he replied. The warlord tilted his head, almost amused. "She is my daughter." Jace's heart skipped, so it was true. The broken girl chained like a beast was royalty. She was dying. "In chains," Jace said, voice firm. "She cried when she heard your name." The warlord stepped closer, his giant shadow falling over Jace. She was a disappointment, a failed child, reminder of weakness. Jace's fists clenched. "She's still alive, still breathing. That's strength." The warlord stared at him, unmoved. Then, something unexpected happened. He laughed, a cruel, hollow laugh that made the air colder. "Then keep her," the warlord said, turning away. "What? You saved her? Now you own her." Jace stepped forward. "She's not a gift." The warlord didn't look back. "She is nothing to me. If she's something to you, prove it." Then he vanished into his ship. And just like that, the king left his daughter behind. Jace stood in silence, the wind cutting through the moment like a blade. Inside the tent, the girl watched him through the curtain. She had heard everything. He walked in slowly. "He left you, Jace," said gently. He said, "You're mine now." She looked down, hands shaking. "I don't want to be owned," she whispered. "You're not." She blinked. Then, "What am I to you?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he placed food beside her. Something warm, soft, easy to eat. "You're safe here. That's enough for now." She picked up the food slowly, like it might explode after. A few bites, she looked at him again. "Why did you carry me?" "Because you were hurt." "Why did you speak for me?" "Because no one else did." She held the spoon tight in her small hand. "Will you chain me again?" Jace knelt beside her. "No," he said firmly. "Never." She stared at him. I really stared for the first time. Her eyes still glowed, but this time there was something else in them. A question, and maybe a tiny spark of trust. That night, Jace found her sitting by the heater, staring into the flames. She had drawn something in the dirt beside her. Circles. Stars. Strange symbols. "What's that?" he asked. She hesitated. "My home. Before I was taken underground, you remember it." She nodded. Double quotes. "Do you want to go back?" She looked up. "No, it was never mine. They never saw me as theirs." She placed a hand on her chest. "I only feel like someone now because you looked at me." Jace didn't know what to say, but in that moment, he made a silent promise. "No, matter what she had been, no matter what she might become, he would never let her be invisible again. The sun had not risen yet, but the human base was already awake. Generators hummed, soldiers moved quietly, and drones circled the camp in slow, lazy arcs. Inside the workshop tent, Jace stood frozen, staring at the object on the table. It was a small cube made from broken metal scraps, old wires, and shattered tech things meant for the trash. But the cube was glowing. Soft blue lights pulsed from its sides like a heartbeat. It made no sound, yet Jace felt the energy from it. Alive. Watching. He turned to the one who made it. The alien girl sat in the corner, his arms wrapped around her legs, half hiding her face. Her skin still carried bruises, and her twisted leg was braced, but her hands were steady, delicate, but fast. "You made this?" he asked, stepping closer. She nodded once. It was broken. The parts were useless. She shook her head gently. Not useless, just forgotten. Jace pressed a button on the cube. It floated into the air. He blinked. How? I listened to them, she said. The pieces still wanted to work. I just helped them remember that. Sentence made no sense to anyone else, but Jace understood. She wasn't just clever. She was something else. A soldier entered the tent, holding a pile of broken scanners. "Captain, we need these fixed by morning." He stopped, eyes falling on the floating cube. "What? What is that?" Before Jace could answer, the cube gently hovered toward the scanners. Wires reached out like fingers, brushing the damaged parts. The soldier dropped everything and backed away. Within seconds, the scanners flickered back to life. Jace didn't speak. He simply looked at the girl and saw her. Truly, for the first time, she's not useless, he said, picking up the tools she left behind. That same day, she fixed a broken medical unit, rebuilt a shattered drone, and made a silent cooling fan for the barracks. She didn't brag. She didn't smile. She only worked quietly, as if trying to prove she deserved to exist. And still, many didn't trust her. "She's alien tech." Someone whispered, "What if she's a spy?" Another said, "Too quiet, too strange, not normal." Jace heard it all and ignored it all. He brought her more tools, more scraps, more challenges. Each time she surprised him. Each time she looked more alive. One night, as the stars shimmered above the camp, Jace found her sitting under the open sky, watching the stars. He sat beside her. "You never look at people," he said, "but you look at the stars." "They don't judge me," she whispered. "You know, they used to call humans worthless too." She glanced at him. "They did." He nodded once, long ago, until we proved otherwise. She looked away again. "I don't know what I am." "Not a tool," he said. "You're not a weapon." She was silent. "You're someone who builds, not destroys. That matters." Suddenly her eyes lit up, not just from emotion, but a real glow, soft and warm. She reached into her bag and pulled out something new. A small chip, smooth and silver. "It's for you," she said. JC raised an eyebrow. "What does it do?" "It remembers you," she replied. "Your voice, your steps, your heartbeat. If you ever go missing, it will find you." Jace held it in his palm, stunned. "You made this for me?" She nodded. "No one made things for me before," she added softly. "But you did. A bed, a meal, a name." "A name?" he asked. She smiled, just a little. "I chose one. What is it?" Jace repeated it, tasting the sound. "Zura." She smiled wider. It was the first time her smile reached her eyes. But peace never lasted long. The next morning, Jace returned to the workshop. The cube was gone, the drones were disabled, and Zura had vanished. Only her necklace made from wire and bolts was left hanging on the chair. Jace grabbed it, heart pounding. A message was carved into the wood beneath. She does not belong to you." His hands tightened. He had saved her life. He gave her a name. She gave him her trust. And now, someone had taken her back. But not without leaving a trail. Jace turned to the stars, just like she always didn't. Whispered, "I will find you, Zura." Jace tore through the empty tent, calling her name again and again, but no one answered. The soldiers nearby looked confused. No alarms had gone off. No one had seen anything strange. It was as if she had simply melted into the air. But Jace knew Zura wouldn't leave on her own. She was learning to trust, learning to live, finally smiling. She would never walk out without saying goodbye, lest someone took her, and now all he had was her necklace. He held it tightly in his hand. Cold metal pressed into his skin. It still carried her scent, faint and familiar. Like engine oil and soft spices, that meant she had been here just moments ago. Jace stormed into command, his voice firm. Someone took her. "Sir, there was no breach," the officer said, checking. "The scans, no teleport signature, no unauthorized entry. The perimeter is secure." "Then how did she vanish?" They had no answer. The base ran a full sweep. Every room, every ship, every storage unit. Drones scanned from the skies. Nothing. Zura was gone, without a trace. Except one thing, that message carved into the chair. "She does not belong to you." Jace stared at it for a long time. The letters were written in an ancient alien dialect, one he'd seen before during the invasion of the southern ruins. That writing belonged to the House of Vorthon, Zura's bloodline, her father's house. Jace clenched his jaw. She had been taken by her own kind again. But this time, they didn't come with weapons or threats. This time, they came like shadows. Silent, clean, surgical. And that was worse. Because now, she wasn't just a prisoner. She was a secret they wanted to erase. He packed his gear without waiting for orders. "Captain," the commander warned, "if the House of Vorthon reclaims her, it's political. Touching her now could start a war." Jace looked him dead in the eye, then let it. He took a stealth ship and flew alone. His only clue was the style of the carving's curved symbols, clean lines, and the scent of chemicals burned into the wood. That scent matched something found only in one place. The old Vorthon palace, destroyed in the last rebellion, or so they said. The coordinates took him to a lifeless zona, forbidden sector surrounded by radiation storms and sensor jammers. Ships that entered rarely came back, but Jace didn't turn around. He flew into the storm. Lightning danced across the hull. Ship shook. Systems blinked on and off. But he kept going. Through the clouds, through the dark, and finally he saw. It dot a mountain of metal, buried beneath the ground, covered by vines and fog. The entrance was hidden behind stone, sealed by symbols that lit up as his ship approached. They were waiting. As he stepped out, he was met with silence. Not a sound, not wind, not movement, just the feeling of being watched. He entered the ruins. The air was thick with dust, yet the lights still worked. The halls were empty, but clean. Machines hummed behind walls. Something was alive down here, something cold and ancient. Then he saw the first symbol, a circle, broken by a line. It was the mark of the Vaultborn. The stomach twisted. The Vaultborn were not natural. They were made, designed in secret labs long ago during the rise of genetic warfare. Half-living, half-programmed, created for intelligence and obedience. Most were destroyed after peace treaties were signed, but some were hidden, some were preserved. Zura wasn't just the warlord's daughter. She was one of them. Created in this lab, locked away like a mistake, a failed experiment, till she was needed again. He moved deeper into the base, heart racing. Metal doors opened as if they recognized him. Then he heard it, a voice small, trembling. "I didn't run away." Stopped. Her voice came from beyond the next wall. "I didn't want to leave." He rushed forward, hands slamming the panel open, and there she was, Zura hooked to a chair. Wires running through her arms, her glowing eyes dim. Machines read her thoughts. Probes circled her skull. She looked at him, but barely. "Jace." "Here," he said, rushing to her side, tearing off the wires. "You're coming with me. They want to erase me. Not while I'm breathing." The machine started to alarm. Red lights blinked overhead. Guards were coming. Jace lifted her into his arms again, just like the first time. She was weaker now, colder, but her fingers curled around his shirt. "I knew you'd come," she whispered, and that was all he needed to hear. He ran. Jace slammed the vault door behind him as the alarms screamed through the underground halls. He held Zura close, her body weak, her skin cold like fading light. Her eyes flickered, but didn't close. She was still awake, still holding on. Found a small chamber down the side tunnel. Dust filled the corners, but the room was empty. No guards, no machines. He laid her gently on a soft bench and placed his rifle beside her. "We're safe for now," he whispered. Zura tried to speak, but her voice was dry, cracked like broken glass. They took memories. Jace knelt beside her, brushing strands of tangled hair from her face. "I'm going to get them back." He scanned the room. No cameras, no movement, only one strange thing. A panel on the wall glowing faintly. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Waiting for a command, Jace stepped forward and placed his hand on it. The wall slid open. Behind it was not another hallway, but a dark stairwell leading down deeper into the mountain, deeper than any scan had shown. Without a word, he picked up his gear, checked on Zura, and left her under watch of a drone. She needed rest, but he needed answers. The stairs creaked under his boots. The deeper he went, the colder the air became. The walls changed from smooth metal to something older stone mixed with flesh-like cables. The lighting came from the walls themselves. Glowing veins of pale green dot. At the bottom was a black door. He pushed it open and stepped into a nightmare. Rows of tanks lined the room. Tall glass cylinders filled with pale liquid. Inside each one floated a different body. Some looked like children, some looked like machines. All had glowing eyes. Each was labeled Z1, Z2, Z3, Z4, and there at the end, 8, Z-9. Her face, her shape, but not her spirit. It was Zura, another version. Frozen. Cold. JACE. Backed away, they hadn't just made her, they had made many of her. Clones, weapons, projects. This was not a prison, it was a factory. And she was the one who escaped. A screen on the far wall blinked to life as he approached. It showed documents, thousands of lines of data. Experiments, failures, notes, subject. Z29 shows unexpected behavior. Rejects direct control. Emotional growth detected. Escalating autonomy. Solution. Erase memory, reset behavior. Jace's jaw tightened. They had been resetting her over and over, trying to break her mind until she became obedient, but she resisted. She built things. She chose kindness. She chose him. One line on the screen? Do not allow Z9 contact. With unfiltered human presence, risk of bonding is high. Outcome uncontrollable. His eyes burned with anger. That's why they wanted her back. Not because she was dangerous, but because she was becoming free. He heard footsteps behind him. 3 scientists stood at the door, wearing white robes, their eyes emotionless. "You should not be here," one said calmly. Gay raised his rifle. "You erased her memory. She is not designed for independence. She is not your machine. She was built for observation, not love," the woman said coldly. "She is a vault-born. You formed a connection." That was the error. Jace fired a warning shot into the wall. "I don't care what you built her for. I care what she chooses." The scientists didn't move. "You cannot stop the process." One said, "Even now, her neural patterns are being rewritten. Soon, she won't remember your name." Jace turned and ran. He didn't wait for more threats. He reached the upper room where Zura lay. Her eyes were closed, but her hand moved, fingers twitching. He took her hand and squeezed it. She didn't open her eyes, but her lips moved. One word. "Jace." He smiled. She remembers. Behind him, the door burst open. Guards poured into the chamber. Jace lifted Zura and darted toward the backup exit. It mapped on the way down. Bullets flew past him, lights exploded, walls cracked, but he didn't. Stop. Not this time. Zura wasn't just a girl. Anymore, she wasn't just a project. She was real. And he would burn the whole mountain if they tried to erase her again. Rain fell hard on the metal plains outside the ruined Vorthan mountain. Smoke poured from every crack in the ancient facility. The backup entrance Jace used had collapsed behind him, but he didn't care. He had Zura in his arms. Her breathing was shallow, her skin pale. Her eyes closed, but she was alive, and he was going to keep her that way. He sprinted across the mud, past shattered pillars and smoking vents, toward the extraction beacon. His ship had arrived. The side door opened as he approached, lights glowing with urgency. Emergency medbed ready, the onboard AI said. Jace laid her down gently, locking the clamps around her arms and legs, not to trap her, but to stabilize her broken body. The ship lifted off. Storms raged below, but they climbed through them, up into orbit. Take us to the safe zone, Jace ordered, voice shaking. The ship responded, but behind him. Something beeped. Zura's vitals dropped, then her eyes opened. Red. Neural override detected, the ship's AI warned. Foreign signal attempting control. No, Jace growled. Not again. Zura sat up suddenly, her body moving stiff. Unnatural, like someone else was pulling the strings. But then her fingers twitched. She grabbed her own head, teeth gritted, shaking hard, and screamed it wasn't. Just Pennant was war inside her mind. Jace grabbed her hand. Zura, fight. It listened to me. You are not theirs. Her breathing became wild, her chest rising fast. Then she stopped shaking. The red glow faded, and her eyes turned soft again, blue and gold. She looked at Jace, sweat running down her face. I broke it, she said, breathless. You broke. What? The control. It tried to rewrite me again, but I pushed back. He sat beside her, stunned. How did you do that? I remembered what you said, she whispered, that I get to choose who I am. She looked down at her hands, still shaking, still bleeding from the needles they had used. I don't want to be their weapon anymore. Then don't be. I want to fight. Jace raised an eyebrow. You're barely awake. I'm awake enough. Jace nodded slowly. You're sure? Zura looked out the ship window at the stars above and the galaxy that once turned. It's back on her. I've been locked up my whole life, called broken, twisted, a failure. They put wires in my mind, tried to erase me again and again. She stood wobbly, but strong. Not anymore. Her hand touched the ship's control panel. Wires slithered out and into her palm. Jace jumped up. Zura, what are you doing? Her eyes glowed again, but not red this time. Anew. Colored white, pure, clean. She whispered something in an alien language. The ship responded with a sound she had never heard before, harmony. She had linked with the ship dash fully, and now it obeyed her. I rerouted the systems. She said calmly, we can cloak, we can jump, but first, we send a message. To who? To them? She turned, toward the camera. The screen came to life, transmitting across hidden networks. Across the royal channels of the Vorthan bloodline, the girl they had erased was now speaking live. This is Zura of Vaultborn, she said, her voice steady, her eyes burning. You chained me, cut me, rewrote me. She held up her scars. But you forgot one thing. She turned to Jace. I met a human. Then she faced the camera again, and now I choose to be one.
Ow!
The signal was cut, but not before thousands across the sector saw it. The human next to her stood in silence, then smiled. You really said that. Zura smiled back. I really meant it. Alarms lit up in the ship. Enemy ships incoming, the AI warned. 3 carriers, Vorthan class. It grabbed his rifle. Zura placed her hand on the wall again. I can handle them. He looked at her. Zura, are you sure? She nodded. They wanted a weapon. Fine. I'll be a weapon. Her voice turned cold, but I'll aim myself. Outside the ship, the sky lit up. Zura's ship vanished from sensors, and for the first time in Vorthan history, 3 warships were destroyed by something they couldn't even track. The sky was quiet now. Where fire once reigned and engines roared, there was only soft wind and drifting ash. The battle had ended hours ago, but its echoes still lingered in the hearts of those who survived. At the edge of a ruined field, surrounded by wreckage and fallen machines, Zira stood beside the human who gave her a name. Her armor was cracked, her skin was scarred. Glowing veins pulsed across her arms, remnants of the technology she had broken free from. Her breath was slow, her body tired, but her spirit stronger than ever. Jay sat on a rock nearby, resting. Watching her in silence, he had never seen anyone like her. Not in all the missions he had flown. Not in all the battles he had fought. She had chosen to fight. Not because she wanted to destroy, but because she wanted to live. And now, she was free. Truly free. Zora turned toward him, her eyes soft again, no longer white with power, but warm. Full of emotion, she walked slowly, limping slightly on her healed leg, her fingers curling around the necklace. He once found on her chair. Then she stood in front of him, quiet, still her. Voice came out, barely above a whisper. "Will you still keep me?" She looked down, hands trembling. "Even like this?" Jace didn't move. He had seen her chained in the dark. He had seen her trembling in pain. He had seen her become a storm in the sky, and now he saw her afraid. Not of death, not of pain, but of rejection. He stood and reached out, gently touching her face. "Zura," he said, "I never kept you." Confused. "You stayed on your own?" His hand lowered, and he looked her in the eye. "You were never a gift, never a burden. You were a choice, my choice." Tears built in her glowing eyes, not the sharp, acidic tears of her kind, but something softer, something human. "I don't look like you," she said quietly. "I don't think like you. I was made to obey, not to feel." "You felt more than most people I've ever met," he replied. "I'm part machine. The machines are lucky." She laughed, but only a little. Her shoulders shook, her body relaxing, as if she finally let go of years of fear. The sun began to rise behind them, casting golden light across the burnt earth. Zora looked toward the light. "I always thought the stars were home," she said softly, "but they never looked back at me." Jay stepped beside her. "They are now." She looked up at him. "What happens next?" He smiled. "You build a new life? With you? If you'll have me." She didn't answer. Instead, she reached up and took his hand, not as a servant, not as a weapon, not as something broken, but as someone whole. As someone loved, they walked together across the ruined field. One human, one alien girl once cast away now. Walking side by side into a future no one saw coming. Behind them, the stories would grow of a girl made in a lab who broke her chains, of a human who chose kindness when the galaxy chose silence, of how she fought not for orders, not for war, but for the right to feel, to live, to belong, and how she whispered, "One final truth to the stars: I was created to follow, but I chose to be free."